My child, there are partings that come without warning, no farewells. No doors slamming shut, just a long stretch of silence. And one day, you realize that someone has quietly walked out of your life. Not through dramatic actions, not through heated arguments or streams of tears, but through a slow and distant withdrawal. You are left sitting in the aftermath, surrounded by doubt, self-questioning, and the ache of abandonment. The one who quietly left might have once been your warmth in a cold season. Someone you believed would never turn their back on you. Yet in that silence, a spiritual voice calls out, I, the one who sees all that is hidden in the heart of man, I am using that absence to awaken you to something deeper. This isn't just a change of emotion, is a sacred sign of a destined separation. Just as leaves fall not because the branch ceases to nourish them, but because the season has changed, so it is with love. When someone's heart grows cold, when their eyes no longer linger on you with the tenderness they once held, it is not merely a sign of a changing heart. It may be the end that heaven has permitted to protect you from a misaligned future. Humans have a tendency to cling to the familiar, especially when that familiarity once served as a shelter during difficult years. You have loved with your whole heart. You stayed when the other began to let go. You prayed for them in the darkness, hoping their gaze would return to you with the warmth of before. But when silence grows louder than concern, when responses become more detached than their presence, that is when the Holy Spirit whispers, this companionship is becoming dangerous for your soul, not because they are wicked, but because they are no longer part of the destiny written for your next chapter. My dear child, I will never let you walk alone through seasons of transition, but I do not always allow every person to stay. Sometimes, to lead you to the place I have prepared, I must allow certain doors to close quietly, yet firmly. The departure of someone is not always a failure in love, but maybe the fulfillment of a divine purpose. They came to play a role in your life, to reflect a part of your soul you needed to face, to awaken a deeper awareness within you. And when their mission is complete, they leave quietly. Their absence is not a coincidence. It is a divine permission, part of my loving design for you. The issue is not that they left, but that you continue to cling to the outdated image of who they once were, even though they have changed. All the while, heaven is trying to release you from the burden of maintaining a connection that is now out of alignment with your spirit. You deserve a love that does not require begging. You deserve a presence not interrupted by fear or selfishness. And what is truly sacred will never imprison your soul in doubt or neglect. So when their messages grow infrequent, when the spaces between words widen more than the intimacy they once carried, when you feel their presence has faded, even if they are still physically there, listen. Not to blame, but to understand, heaven is calling you to step out of a room where the light has already gone out. Their silence is not avoided, is a resounding bell that signals it is time to let go. Not out of pain, but out of protection. Not because you are not enough, but because your destiny requires a different kind of companion. A companion sent from heaven, sealed not by old memories, but by divine purpose. Believe this, when someone silently walks away, and that departure happens within my permission, it is not a loss, it is a release. You are not being rejected, you are being repositioned. And what I am about to do through this departure will far exceed anything you could have imagined, because true love never needs to be fought for. Genuine companionship never requires begging, and true destiny is never buried simply because one person decides to turn away. My beloved child, There are changes in life that do not come with thunder or storm, but creep in like the last wisps of mist after a long night quiet. Yet, unyielding. And the most dangerous thing is not when someone leaves, but when their heart has long gone, yet their shadow remains sitting in front of you. We often become attached to the familiar, facaded, the fading laughter, the reluctant nods we still call normal. But normal is never a home for the heart. Normal cannot hold the soul, and normal cannot save relationships that have already died in silence. Perhaps you've been there speaking into what feels like a conversation, though only your voice echoes back, sending messages and receiving only silence, holding tightly to the past, as if the fact that it once was could still mean it will be. But child, awaken. Not everything that once had meaning will always have meaning. Not everyone who once held your hand is willing to walk through fire with you. Not every memory is a signpost to the future. And so, when I begin to draw that person out of your life, I do not move in cruelty but in mercy. They are not wicked. They are not your enemy. But their role in your story is complete. Their part in the script ended long ago. Yet you continue to hold on as if they are still the main character. Face this truth. What once healed you in one season can become the wound in the next. Words once spoken in sincerity now echo back without emotion. And inside, you keep asking, why? Yet you dare not ask them directly. Because deep down, you already know the answer. You've just not had the strength to accept it. The most painful rejection is not someone leaving, but someone staying without truly being there. When they are physically present, but their mind is elsewhere. When they still respond to your messages, but no longer read you with their heart. When their silence is not a lack of words, but an abundance of distance. And in that moment, I begin to shift. I stir your soul from its weary slumber. I whisper in the pauses. I tremble within the void. I knock on the door of your heart with a question too serious to ignore. How long will you remain in a place I have already called you out of? Not everyone is meant to walk with you to the end of the journey. And that truth diminishes neither their worth nor yours. It simply means the dividing line has appeared. They are no longer your ally, no longer your companion, no longer in harmony. Every step you take from here, with them still beside you, will tear at your soul, though your face may still carry a smile. You can choose silence. You can pretend nothing's wrong. You can keep holding on to a fragile connection built on memories, but it will suffocate your spirit. It will kill your dignity. And soon enough, you'll no longer recognize who you see in the mirror. Stop. My beloved child, listen to me. They are no longer the ones I have sent for the next chapter of your life. Do not bind them to your soul with memories. Do not cling to them out of fear of being alone. I know that letting go makes you tremble. I know you once believed you would have no one else. But trust this, when I take someone away, it is because I am making room not for what no longer fits, but for what is meant to become whole. And you will not see that if you keep looking backward. They were not a punishment, nor were they a reward. They were a phase, a transition, a hallway in the house of your destiny. You have learned, you have loved, you have hurt, and now you must move on. If they chose to leave in silence, let me be the final voice within your heart. Do not let the echo of their departure weigh down your worth. Do not let the turning of their eyes make you forget that you were chosen by me, loved by me, and called precious by me. You do not need an apology to move forward. You do not need an explanation to close the old chapter. All you need is my affirmation that you loved sincerely, gave wholeheartedly, and live truthfully with your heart. That is enough. And because of that, you are allowed to move on without the burden of regret. You are allowed to step forward without waiting for someone to turn back. There is one thing you must understand, and I want you to etch this into the depths of your soul. True love never makes you feel like you have to strive just to be seen. True love does not make you question your worth in moments of silence. It does not ask you to alter who you are just to avoid being too much, too sensitive, or too deep. True love does not walk away on the days you are weak, nor does it use silence as a form of punishment. You have lived long enough in a connection that made you shrink piece by piece just to keep the peace. You have tiptoed on the edge of your emotions, terrified that one misstep would earn you more coldness. You called it understanding, patience, saving love. But my child, that is not love. That is survival in fear. That is erasing yourself to hold on to someone I am gently removing from your life. I saw you whisper their name in your prayers, begging me to soften their heart, to bring them back. I saw your tears soak your pillow through nights of silence. I did not stand afar in judgment. I was right there in the dark, whispering into your spirit, "You are not wrong for loving, but love should not hurt this much." I do not blame you for loving honestly. I do not ignore the effort you made, but I will not allow you to lose yourself trying to keep a door open that I have already closed. They are not evil, but they are no longer a place where your soul can find peace. Their spirit moves to a rhythm no longer aligned with yours, and I, who see the undercurrents within every heart, know where they are headed, even if they still smile at you. You think you must have done something wrong. You quietly edit yourself, hoping to become enough for them to stay. But can you see it now? True love never asks you to become someone else. True love never makes you afraid that you're not enough. Their silence is not because they don't know how to speak it, is because they have chosen not to speak to you anymore. Their indifference is not accidental, it is intentional. Their withdrawal is not due to being too busy, it's because their heart is no longer where you are. And I, the one who holds your destiny, cannot ignore that. I have whispered it to your spirit. Prepare yourself. You felt it, but you pushed it away because you were afraid it might be true. I understand. Who wants to believe that a bond once filled with comfort has become the source of their heartbreak? My child, a single moment of pain is not as terrifying as the slow decay of the soul. Do not hold on to someone through your own wounding. Do not build hope on a foundation already cracked and broken. I say this with deep compassion. Let what is leaving leave, because that rejection is not your end. It is the end of a season that has run its course, and what lies ahead for you cannot begin if you remain standing on the old road, hoping for a locked door to open once more. Believe me, you do not need the approval of someone who turned away in order to begin the next chapter of your life. You do not need a final word from them. I am your final word. I am the one who makes a way in the wilderness, the one who formed you, who understands you, who knows every dream you've hidden in the deepest corners of your soul. And if I tell you it is time to let go, it is because what lies ahead can only be received with empty hands. I have prepared a new season that is drawing near, a season where you no longer need to wonder whether you are loved, a place where you will not have to dim your light to spare others' eyes, a place where love does not arrive with conditions to be met, but with arms wide open to embrace the fullness of who you truly are. But you must release what no longer belongs to you. You must find the courage to close the door that no longer leads to peace. Know this, you are not alone, and this letting go is not the end. It is a gateway that I, the Lord your God, I am inviting you to step through. The truth is, There are things in life for which you will never receive a full explanation. Not because I do not want to give you one, but because your vision is clouded by emotions too deep and memories too heavy. You are clinging to a bond that has long worn thin, and deep down, you know it, but your faithful heart still holds on, because it is tied to memories you are not yet ready to release. I see you, in the quiet of night, replaying old conversations, rereading messages, and asking yourself, how did it all change so quickly? You find no answer, because what is happening lies beyond your control. They are withdrawing, not with noise, not with a clear goodbye. They are simply fading, little by little, through indifference, through broken conversations, through increasingly distant glances. What hurts is not just their departure, but the silence, because you once believed that if love were real, people would stay and explain, not quietly erase your name from their world as if you never existed. But hear me, child, some people do not walk away because they stopped caring. They walk away because they lack the courage to face who they truly are in the presence of someone like you. You have become a mirror. In your honesty, your love, and your courage, they saw their own pretense, their half-heartedness, their broken pieces they wished not to confront. You did not drive them away. It was your light that made them realize they could no longer stay. And I want you to understand, this rejection is not an end, but a necessary severing so that your soul might be free to move forward. Some goodbyes are grace in disguise. They come not to break you, but to keep you from stepping into a future unworthy of the light I have placed within you. I know. At first, it doesn't feel like a gift. At first, it feels like a blow to the chest, like an undertow pulling away the ground you thought was solid. You wonder if you did something wrong. You blame every word, every decision. You think, if only I had been more patient, if only I hadn't said those things, if only I knew how to make them stay. But my child, I have spoken clearly. This is not your fault. Some connections were never meant to be permanent. They are stops along the journey, places where you learn, grow, and then move on. Your faithfulness was not a failure. Your sincere love was not a weakness. On the contrary, they are marks of your maturity, evidence that you dared to love, dared to invest, and dared to trust another soul. But now, there is another lesson you must learn, the holy courage to let go. This is not surrender, but obedience. It is not resignation, but trust. Trust in me. I know who can walk with you in the next season. I know who carries burdens that slow your steps. Some people bring light. Some come to awaken. Some come to test. And others appear simply to open your eyes to the worth you've never seen in yourself. Once their role is complete, they will leave, perhaps with gratitude, perhaps in silence, or sometimes even through betrayal. Yet, no matter the way, I remain in control. No one can exit your life unless I allow it. And if I allow it, then you can be sure of this. Their departure is clearing the path for something greater. My child, you are not being abandoned. You are being protected. Their silence is the knock of a new season at your door. Do not fill it with regret. Do not attempt to revive what I am letting die. Prepare your heart. Let go of the question, why did they change? And instead ask, Lord, what do you want me to learn from this? When you ask that, I will give you clarity not to analyze them, but to heal yourself. Now you are stepping into a new phase 1, where unhealthy relationships will no longer have a place where your soul will be surrounded only by what aligns with your calling and the blessings I have prepared for you. But to enter in, you must have courage. Courage not to knock on old doors simply because they once opened. Oh, child. Some doors close not to mislead you, but to guard you from paths that would destroy your soul. Sometimes my protection doesn't come in the form of arms that hold you, but through the withdrawal of hands that once held you tight. And sometimes you won't understand why the one who promised to walk with you to the very end suddenly turns away. You are left standing in the hallway of unanswered assumptions, knocking on a door that is already locked, unaware that I have opened another behind you. You once believed that if you loved deeply enough, stayed faithful long enough, then they would stay. But love, dear one, does not always keep people together. I did not create love to be a chain. True love is built upon a divine agreement between two souls, walking in the same direction toward the light, toward goodness, toward purpose. And when one of those souls no longer desires to journey on the path I've set, I do not force it. I love you too much to keep you bound to those who see your presence as an option rather than a gift. Have you felt it, child, that deep soul tiredness, not from work, but from the quiet neglect of someone you dearly loved? When words turn cold, when their eyes no longer reflect support, but suspicion and distance, when the one who once lifted you with encouragement now diminishes you with silence, that is not your fault. It is my signal, waking you up to the truth that you are giving something precious to a heart no longer open to receive. You were not created to chase after souls who no longer see you. You were not meant to lower your sacred frequency just to make others feel comfortable. Your presence is a gift. The love you carry is a divine investment from heaven. I shaped your heart not to be trampled upon, but to beat in rhythm with those who know how to love with sacrifice. If someone does not cherish that, I will remove the connection not to hurt you, but to protect your heart from being wasted. You may blame me. You may ask, God, why didn't you let them see my worth? But I ask you this, my child, why do you expect someone without spiritual sight to perceive the depths of your soul? I did not create you to be understood by everyone, but to be rightly connected to those aligned with your destiny. Not everyone holds the key to your heart without wounding it. And when I see someone using that key carelessly, I will take it back. I know you placed great hope in that connection. I know you envisioned a future with them, perhaps as a soulmate, a partner, a confidant. I saw your sacrifice, your waiting, your prayers, your trust. You gave without holding back. And now, with everything collapsing without warning, you feel like you failed. But, my beloved, failure does not lie in others walking away. Failure is allowing their departure to make you doubt your own worth, and that I will not allow. That is why I'm speaking clearly to you today. Not everyone who walks with you for a season is meant to stay for a lifetime. Some come only to ignite a turning point. Others come to teach you discernment, and when their role is complete, they must leave, whether gently or through a painful break. What I'm doing now is not robbing you of closeness. I'm purifying. I'm refining the connections around you to prepare you for a greater season. I cannot allow unhealthy ties to keep influencing the spiritual flow within you. There are things I am about to release to you, visions, anointing, new steps that cannot operate fully if you're still tethered to those who do not share your rhythm. Trust me. Let me remove from your life what no longer fits where I'm taking you. Don't cling to the fragments just because they once formed a whole picture. I can craft a new masterpiece more beautiful, deeper, stronger. You allow me to begin again. But first, you must let me clear the space. My child, I know you're wrestling with the weight of loss, as if your soul has just been torn from a piece it held for so long. I see you sitting alone in the quiet hours, heart heavy with unanswered questions. Why did they leave? Why couldn't the good things stay? You've replayed every conversation, every moment, every memory, trying to find where you went wrong. But, dear one, some departures are not born of mistakes, but of completion. And completion is not failure, it is the necessary end to a passing season. I do not fault you for remembering. Memory is proof of genuine love. I do not rebuke you for your tears. Tears are the language of the soul as it learns to let go. But I don't want you to build a home in that sorrow. Do not pitch your tent in the land of what is no more. You have the right to mourn, but do not remain in the season of mourning. For I am calling you forward not to deny what you once loved, but to embrace what I am preparing for you. You cannot receive the new if your hands are still clinging to what has already left. I once thought that connection was destiny. I once believed that love was the final destination. But my child, I am the true destiny of your life. And my love is the only place that lasts forever. When I allow someone to walk out of your life, it is not a punishment. It is an invitation to draw deeper into intimacy with me. For I alone am the unshakable foundation, the place you belong, the love that does not waver, does not fade, does not diminish. Do you remember what I said to Abraham when I asked him to offer up Isaac's beloved son? The promise, the vision, the dream he had waited for all his life. It was not because I wanted to take it away, but because I wanted to see if his heart placed me above even the blessings I had given. Abraham did not hesitate, and it was in that very place of surrender that he encountered me in a brand new way. Jehovah Jireh, Lord will provide. That obedience didn't just change his destiny, it changed the destiny of an entire people. So, my child, when I ask you to release someone, it is not to cause you pain, it is to open the door to something greater, a deeper dimension of purpose, a new revelation of me, a reward you cannot receive while still holding on to what no longer aligns with your journey. I never take something precious without the intention of replacing it with something better. But I need you to trust me first. Not trust me after everything becomes clear, but trust me while everything is still clouded. That is faith. And faith is the foundation of the greatest transformations in your life. I see your worry. If they leave, will anyone truly come? I hear the trembling in your heart. If I let go, will I be alone forever? But the loneliness you fear is only temporary. It is the sacred space where I plant something new. It is the moment I remove what bears no fruit so that my own hand can sow divine connections, people who will not only walk with you but lift your soul. People who will love you not because you're easy to love, but because they see the spiritual light within you and treasure it, just as I do. But that can't come unless you are willing to heal. You must let me touch the wounds. Don't hide. Don't ignore. Don't bury the pain beneath forced smiles or the noise of busyness. Let me enter the deepest places, the ones you dare not show anyone else. For only when I touch that place will you truly be healed. And only when you are healed will you be able to receive the new without destroying it with the pain left unresolved. I am shaping you, my beloved, not to break you, but to make you stronger. I am deepening your roots so that when the storm winds blow, you will not be swept away. I am teaching you that the departure of another does not define your worth, and you do not need to shrink yourself for someone else to fit. You only need to stand firm in my light, and those who are destined to be part of your story will find you. You do not need to chase. You do not need to beg anyone to stay. What is true will endure. What is yours will not leave. And if it leaves, It was never truly yours. Let me redefine your understanding of loss. Let me show you that a closed door is sometimes an act of mercy, that someone's departure can be a hidden gift, and that pain is not the end of the story, but a semicolon pause in which I begin to write something far greater. I am the author, and the next chapter, my beloved, will be more radiant than you can imagine. My child, there is something I want you to understand deeply. Not every departure is a failure. In fact, many departures are part of a greater plan to free you from what no longer serves you. I know it's difficult to recognize this when you're in the middle of heartbreak, when someone you trusted silently walks away, when a once familiar presence turns into stifling absence. Your heart may struggle to see that such a severing could be an act of love from me, but it is. Sometimes, I remove people not to hurt you, but to protect the path I am preparing for you. Pain, my dear one, is not always a sign that something has gone wrong. At times, it is the natural consequence of growth. There are things your soul no longer aligns with as you mature. Just as a child's clothing cannot fit an adult, there are connections that were only ever meant to last for a season. And when that season ends, they begin to feel tight, limiting even, suffocating. Holding on becomes like a dying tree clinging to its withered leaves, while all along, I am preparing it to bloom anew. Letting go is not always loss. It can be sacred preparation for something greater. I have heard your prayers. Lord, please restore this relationship. Please bring them back to me. But not everything you ask for will lead you to where I desire you to go. Sometimes I don't repair what's broken. I lead you through a brand new door. Sometimes, the answer to your heartfelt cry is not to bring someone back, but to teach you how to walk forward without them. What you're holding on to may not be part of the sacred future I've designed for you. Even if it once brought you joy, you remember how desperately you held on. Even as all the signs showed the connection was fading, you noticed their absence in heart, the warmth growing cold, the intimacy replaced by silence. You reasoned. You hoped. You told yourself that just a little more patience might change things. But my child, I did not call you to remain in a land of endless waiting and confusion. I called you to walk in truth, in clarity, a place where love is not withheld, where presence is not a privilege you must earn, where you are not exhausted by someone else's indifference. Think of Mary Magdalene at the empty tomb. She came with spices, with rituals, with expectations for a body that was no longer there. But I was not in the place of death. My presence had moved on, and even though her love was fierce and her loyalty unwavering, she had to turn around to see the risen one among the dead. But among the living, her faithfulness did not mean staying in the tomb. It meant following me into resurrection. So must you. My beloved, you must turn around. Do not remain at the grave of a relationship that has already fulfilled its purpose in your story. That person brought lessons, memories, sweetness and pain, and then they departed. Not every exit is a rejection. Some are deliverance. Not every silence is abandonment. Sometimes it is heaven pausing, so you can finally hear my voice. So stop asking, why did they change? And begin to ask, Lord, where are you taking me now? Because what matters is not what was behind you, but what is ahead. If your eyes are fixed on the past, you will miss the doors I'm opening right in front of you. If you keep mourning what ended, you will not recognize what is beginning. My child, I know that sometimes you believe loyalty means never letting go. But true loyalty is being faithful to my voice. If I tell you to stay, obey. But if I tell you to walk away, you cannot cling without wounding yourself. Trust that change is not evidence that I'm ignoring you, it's proof that I'm answering. Not in the way you expected, but in the way that's best for you. You, my beloved, you cannot force someone to stay when their soul has already departed. And I will not allow a connection to remain if it's hindering you from stepping into my higher will. I did not create you to live in a relationship where you must shrink yourself just to be tolerated. You were not made to beg for affection. You do not have to trade your peace just to hold on to something that no longer bears fruit. I am leading you away from the old. And yes, at first, it will feel empty. But that emptiness is the space I need in order to fill you anew. Trust me, my child. Every departure I allow is a step closer to your true destiny. And what I am preparing will never cause you to question your worth again. What unsettles you isn't always the storm on the outside, but often the quiet breaking within. The greatest tremors in your life rarely come with a crash, but through prolonged silence, a message left unanswered. A conversation suddenly cut short. You begin to feel the shift, not because something was said, but because something went missing. And then, in one subtle moment, like a clock's hand barely moving forward, you realize they are no longer walking with you. I know that feeling. It's as if something was pulled from inside you, not with a cut, but a withdrawal. Gentle, yet aching. No one screamed. No one cried. But inside you, there's a hollow space with no name. And the hardest part is not that they left, it's that no one explained why. They left with silence, leaving you with 100 questions and no answers. But, my child, there are answers I intentionally withhold. Not because I'm hiding something from you, but because some answers would trap you in the pain while I am calling you out of it. You've wondered, was I not enough? And it's there that the lie begins. You start to question yourself, measuring your worth through the eyes of someone who no longer chose to stay. You begin to anchor your value to their presence or absence. But my child, I never intended for you to live that way. You are not defined by those who leave. You are not labeled by rejection. You are not diminished by hearts too small to see your full worth. I declare, you are my masterpiece. And that truth does not change whether someone stays or walks away. My dear one, not everyone who leaves is bad. Not everyone who stays is meant to journey with you forever. Some departures come not from cruelty, but because their season in your life has ended. Some leave because if they stayed, you would never grow into the fullness I've placed within you. Others withdraw not because you were unworthy, but because the light in you made it impossible for their darkness to remain hidden. Instead of asking why they left, ask me, Lord, what new thing are you doing in me through this loss? Because what is lost in sorrow will be replaced by what comes in fullness. Yes, the departure of a person can feel like losing everything, but that is only a passing feeling. You have not lost yourself. You have not lost your future. You have only let go of what no longer belongs in your next season. You are standing before a new door, but to walk through it, my child, you must lay down what has become a burden. Sometimes, the very people you love most are what weigh your heart the heaviest. You know they no longer walk the same path, yet you keep holding on. You see clearly the misalignment, yet you still wait and hope. But my dear one, when you cling to what has already ended, you are holding yourself back from entering into what I have prepared. Do not wound yourself by clutching the memories of beauty that has already passed. Yes, it was once a blessing, But the blessing of one season must not become the burden of the next. Give thanks to me for what was good, and then let it rest in the past, like a flower that has fully bloomed and now has fulfilled its purpose. I know you may still be secretly checking your phone, hoping for a message. You may still revisit old memories, longing for a trace of warmth. But child, I want you to use that energy to embrace what is coming, not to grieve what is gone. You cannot carry what is left and still have open hands to receive what I am sending. Healing does not come overnight, but it will come, and I will be with you every step of the way. Every tear that falls, I will catch. Every moment you want to turn back but choose to press forward, I will strengthen you. And every time your heart feels a little lighter, I will smile, because it is a sign that you are learning to live unbound by what once was. My beloved, I see how your soul is holding on. You've learned to smile through the pain, to keep moving through unspoken wounds. You still work, still speak, still keep up the appearance of strength, but I see the nights you cannot sleep. I see the way you stand alone in a familiar room, your eyes searching for a response that never comes. And you ask yourself, how could they leave so easily? How could they walk over my heart and not look back? How could they block me out? Erase me as if I never existed? Oh, child, there are things I allow to be removed, not to leave you empty, but to stop you from pouring your soul into places no longer full of life. Some relationships do not end because of faults, but because I had already appointed a time for their conclusion. Some people leaven not because you are unlovable, but because you have grown beyond the connection. You are no longer who you once were. You have been transformed, and sometimes your very growth makes others feel unsettled. You once believed you needed them to be yourself, but that's not true. They came to reflect something within you, an unhealed need, a desire to be seen, a fear of abandonment. But now, I am setting you free from all of that. I did not let them go because you weren't enough, but because you are no longer ruled by the hunger for approval. I am separating you from what shrinks your soul, so you can step into the vastness I have prepared. And one day soon, you will see their departure was not a curse, but a release. You will breathe easier. You will laugh more genuinely. Your prayers will no longer be strangled by the echoes of someone who once filled your mind. You will feel freedom rushing in like the first breeze after a long, scorching summer. And in that moment, you will realize what you thought was an ending was, in truth, a door swinging open into a new beginning. I am not telling you not to hurt. I am not commanding you to be strong right away. I am simply inviting you to lay it down little by little in my presence. Cry, if you need to. Write, if you cannot speak. Come to me with your questions, even with the unspoken accusations you've buried deep inside. I am not afraid of your raw emotions. I am not intimidated by the chaos. I am the one who steps into that chaos to begin again. When you cannot understand the why, give me your trust, because I am doing something new, and you cannot carry old baggage into that journey. My child, I will take you to a place where laughter is no longer a mask for tears, where you can love without shrinking yourself to fit someone else's mold. I will bring you to people who do not require you to pretend, who do not ask you to prove your worth. They will come to fill a void, but to create something new and whole with you. Even so, you must understand, the emptiness you feel now is part of the process. Just as the ground must be tilled before seeds can be sown, your heart is being prepared for a season of growth. The departure did not destroy, you cleared your soil. It removed toxic roots that were silently draining your spirit. It made space for healing. Perhaps they will never come back to apologize. Perhaps they will never acknowledge the pain they caused, but you do not need that to be healed. Healing is not found in their apology. It is found in your yes to me. Yes, I choose to forgive. Yes, I choose to move forward. Yes, I choose not to let this pain rule my life. And when you say yes, heaven responds with healing, with restoration, and with a new chapter that no one can close except me. You do not need to be strong to prove anything. You only need to be honest. And then I will be your strength in the moments when you feel weakest. I will be the pillow where you rest your head, the flame that warms your soul, the whisper in the quiet nights. You are still loved, you still belong, and you still have a future brighter than what you just lost. I stand not because you must, but because you can, not to prove something, but to live in the fullness of your true worth. Those who could not see your value are not worthy of walking with you into what's next. And those I bring into your life will not come in ambiguity. They will not drift in and out like the wind. They will come as a sign of fulfillment, clear, steady, grounded not in fleeting emotions, but in divine appointment. So walk not just away from the past, but toward the future, toward peace, toward true connection, toward what is worthy of you, because you are a part of a sacred plan, one that no one else can take your place in. My dear one, there are times when I do not immediately reveal why I allowed someone to leave your life. That is because I want you to learn to look back, not with the eyes of pain, but with the eyes of maturity. Every ending carries within it a silent prophecy of what I am preparing. But before I can bring you into the new land, you must fully understand the lesson of the old, not so you can return, but so you can move forward with clarity, no longer tangled in emotion and falsehood. I have seen you hold on to fragments of memory, as if clutching them long enough might bring them back. You reread old messages, replay laughter, revisit embraces that once felt meaningful. You try to cover the emptiness with the highlights of what once was. But, my child, memories cannot resurrect a relationship that has already died. Not everything warm was meant to last forever. Some seasons, you are only meant to enter once and never return. Sometimes, the best thing I can do for you is not to make someone stay, but to lead them away, so they no longer cloud your vision. When someone is no longer with you in spirit, but only in body, your soul is pulled into a limbo, a place between holding on and letting go. You don't know where you're heading, because they're no longer walking in the same direction. Still, you keep trying to pull them along, to hold on with prayers, with sacrifice, with your very flesh and soul. You believe that love will conquer all, that if you're good enough, patient enough, forgiving enough, they will eventually understand. I know, I see, I understand. But there are times when forgiveness cannot save a relationship that divine calling has already separated. There are moments when I do not let them return, not because you are unworthy, but because your destiny would be drained if you continued to bind yourself to someone who no longer walks toward the light. I see clearly what would happen if you kept going with them, the sleepless nights, the growing self-doubt, my voice in you gradually drowned out by someone else's. I see the weariness in your eyes as you try to move forward while dragging a soul that has chosen to remain in the dark. That is not my goodwill for you. I created you to soar, to sing, to love with a whole heart. I poured beautiful things into you, not so they could be suffocated within the narrow confines of a relationship that has become only a shadow. True love does not require you to sacrifice your entire self, just to keep something alive. True love does not demand that you trade peace for guilt. You were not made to live forever in the question, did I do something wrong, or was I not enough? Those questions are not from me. They come from confusion, and I am the God of peace. You must understand, when someone leaves your life, it does not signify your failure. Sometimes, it is evidence of my faithfulness. When I see you love without being loved in a healthy way, I intervene. When I see you commit but are not cherished, I intervene. When I see your soul growing weary from having to prove its worth, I intervene. And sometimes, my intervention takes the form of silence from the other person. A gradual distancing, or an unexplained departure, not because I wish to hurt you, but because I am saving you. I am saving you from a life where you would have to trade your soul just to keep a connection. I am saving you from living in half measures and fragile spaces. I am calling you back to yourself, to the identity I placed in you from the beginning, one who is wholly loved, one whose value exceeds the opinion of any person, one who is anointed to walk in freedom. You have walked with them to the very end of a chapter. Now, I invite you to close that chapter not in bitterness, but in gratitude, grateful that they were once present, grateful that you loved truly, grateful that through them, you learned something about yourself, about boundaries, compassion, and how to love without losing who you are. The lesson is complete. The door is closed, and I am opening another one that doesn't take you back to old places, but into promise, a place where hearts are aligned with yours, where love is truer, and life is more fully lived. My child, there is a kind of pain that no one teaches us how to endure, the pain of being left without a goodbye. No knock on the door, no parting words, not even an explanation, only a long, aching silence, messages left unanswered, conversations once so familiar now reduced to empty space. But, my child, though your heart may be in turmoil, I say to you, this is not a rejection. It is a divine arrangement unfolding in your life. Some people do not leave because you did something wrong. They leave because your presence illuminated something within them they were not ready to face. You are a mirror. You carry my light. And sometimes, that light becomes too blinding for those who still wish to hide in the shadows. They are not abandoning you. They are fleeing from the discomfort of being seen. They do not hate you. They simply lack the courage to remain where love requires growth. Remember, their disappearance is not your failure. It is a sign that you have arrived at a higher threshold, a place where half-hearted things cannot follow. I know your heart wants to hold on. I know you look for every little sign, hoping that one day they'll return and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. But even if they do, my child, that does not mean you must give them a place in the journey ahead. Not everyone who returns is sent by me a second time. Some connections were once sacred, but over time have been distorted by hardness of heart, by pride, by choices made, and I, the unchanging Lord, must sever them to protect the work I am doing within you. I see you wondering, if they could leave so easily, was my presence ever truly important to them? You feel yourself fading in their memory. You feel the once deep now turned fleeting. You see promises that once made you weep lying silent, as if they were never spoken. But I say this to you, emotions may deceive, but truth never changes. The truth is, you loved with all your heart. You gave sincerely. You prayed. You forgave. You waited. You hoped. And I, the one who records all things, have never overlooked a single act of your love. Do not waste another tear over someone else's forgetfulness. Let those tears become a stream that cleanses your soul from the remnants of a season that has now closed. Don't seek to understand why they left, for I have hidden from you what you do not need to know. Not every story needs an explanation. Some things are meant to be released. Some people are meant to be let go of with peace in your heart and clarity in your mind. There are wounds for which you will never receive an apology. There are hurts that may never be acknowledged. But you do not need an apology to heal. What you need is my presence. And I am here in every weary breath you take, in every night you cry alone, in every whisper when no one else is listening. I am the one who hears even before you speak. I am the one who knows what you need before you even realize something is missing. You thought that when they left, a part of you went with them. But I say this, what belongs to you cannot be taken. What is truly bound to your soul will remain through the fire. Everything else is merely a shell, stripped away to reveal your truest essence when the time comes. When they walk away, I will remain. When they close the door, I will make a way. When they fall silent, I will speak, and my voice will be louder than any silence. You will not stay in mourning forever. I will lead you out of that place with hands of healing. You will not live only in memories. I will write new ones this time with those who know how to treasure your heart like the precious gift it is. You will no longer have to lower yourself to keep anyone. I will send those who are willing to kneel beside you in true love. My child, pain is not the end of your story. It is the pause where I change the key of the song of your life. You thought this chapter was the ending, but truly, it is only the beginning of something deeper, stronger, and far more sacred. My beloved child, you do not need to hold on to what is already chosen to walk away. Some people leave not because they don't love you, but because they do not know how to love you as you change under my will. When you begin to emerge from the old cocoon, when you no longer submit to old limitations, when you no longer shrink yourself to fit into molds that once confined your soul at that very moment, some will walk out of your life, not because of any fault in you, but because your growth unsettles them. They don't know how to face someone who is being restored, anointed, and placed into the divine design I have always intended. There are seasons in which I allow you to journey with souls who seem as if they'll be with you forever. Yet I allow time, trials, and revelation to uncover this truth. Not everyone is meant for the next chapter. And when you cling to those no longer in harmony with heaven's frequency, you will begin to feel exhausted, disoriented, and disconnected from your inner voice. Because I never destined you to live in spiritual compromise. You thought love meant holding on, but true love begins when you learn to let go at the right moment. I did not design love to be a burden, nor companionship to be a hiding place for avoidance, manipulation, or pain. Some relationships no longer serve as places of nourishment, but have become darkened chambers that pull you away from what I've placed within you. My child, do not confuse patience with blind endurance. I have not called you to live in endless sacrifice for a relationship I never blessed. Some people are permitted to walk with you through a bend in the road, but they were never meant to stay the whole journey. If you do not discern this, you will keep pitching your tent where you were only meant to pass through. Do you remember Abraham? There came a time when he had to part ways with Lot, the one who left Ur with him, who crossed the wilderness with him, who witnessed the promise alongside him. But then came a moment when the land could no longer contain them both. And I stirred the situation, not to harm, but to accelerate a necessary separation. Because only after Lot departed did I open Abraham's eyes to behold the fullness of the land I had given him. Only after those no longer tied to your destiny depart will your spiritual vision be expanded. In the same way, there are things you cannot receive as long as you cling to what is old. I cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. I cannot place a new calling into a loyalty that has lost direction. I love your faithfulness. It's precious to me. But faithfulness does not mean imprisoning yourself. Faithfulness does not mean clinging to what no longer carries my breath. You ask me, why couldn't they stay when I needed them most? And I answer, because only in that empty space can I fill you with my presence. Some departures are not losses, but invitations for you to go deeper in relationship with me, a relationship not dependent on anyone else, not swayed by the approval of others, but rooted firmly in my unshakable love. So, my child, be courageous. Rise from the place where you have wept. Shake off the ashes of self-condemnation. You do not need another explanation. You do not need anyone's seal of approval to let go. The permission has already come from me. I am calling you into a new chapter, where your presence will no longer be confined to fit into a false sense of safety. I am inviting you into a space where you will be recognized for your true worth, where your voice will not be drowned out by indifference, where you will no longer have to shrink yourself to be allowed to stay. Love does not retreat when hardship comes. True love does not fear the shadows of your past, but is willing to walk through them with you. The love I give does not disappear into silence, nor dissolve into empty voids. It continuously calls you out, calls you forward, calls you into the light. And I will never grow weary of saying this. You are worthy of a love that is whole, enduring, and true. So do not grieve. Do not long for someone to return just to soothe the wounds still bleeding. Let me heal you with my unwavering presence. Let me remove from your life the entanglements you once called intimacy, but which were never holy. I will replace them with bonds built upon solid rock. And in that place, you will not only know how to love the right people, you will know how to love yourself the way I have loved you from the beginning. My beloved child, you do not need to hold on to what has chosen to walk away. Some people did not leave because they didn't love you, but because they didn't know how to love you in the midst of your transformation under my will. When you begin to emerge from the old cocoon, when you stop submitting to outdated limits, when you no longer shrink to fit molds that once compressed your soul at that moment, some will leave, not because of your failure, but because your growth unsettles them. They do not know how to relate to someone who is being restored, anointed, and positioned in alignment with my divine design. There are seasons when I allow you to walk alongside souls who seem destined to remain forever. But then I allow time, trials, and revelation to uncover this truth. Not everyone is meant to journey with you into the next phase. And when you cling to those no longer aligned with heaven's frequency, you will begin to feel drained, disoriented, and disconnected from your inner voice, because I never intended for you to live in spiritual compromise. You once thought that love meant holding on, but true love begins when you learn to release at the right time. I did not create love to be a burden, nor did I design companionship to be a hiding place for avoidance, manipulation, or wounding. Some relationships no longer nourish, but instead become dark caves pulling you away from what I have placed within you. My child, do not confuse patience with blind endurance. I have not called you to live in unending sacrifice for a relationship I never blessed. There are those I have allowed into your life to walk with you through a bend in the road, but they were never meant to stay for the whole journey. If you do not recognize this, you will build a camp where there was only meant to be a resting place. My child, when the old begins to fall away, do not be alarmed. When the familiar starts to fade into silence, remember, this is not the sign of an ending, but the invitation to a new beginning. I am leading you to a different land, not geographical, but a place within your soul where you will live, not by human affirmation, but by heavenly validation. In that space, you will no longer be defined by what others think, but by what I declare. There, you will not be distorted by society's expectations, but upheld by the unchanging truth of my word. You have gone far enough in the old land, the place where you once lived to please others, where you silenced your own voice just to keep the peace, where you traded authenticity in order to hold on to relationships that were already fading. But now, I am calling you to step into a new place, into the assurance that comes from Maya, kind of affirmation that cannot be manipulated, that cannot be withdrawn, and that is not subject to the moods or shifting opinions of others. You no longer need anyone's permission to be who you truly are. You no longer have to wait for others to recognize your value. There is no need to apologize for what I have placed inside you, your calling, your personality, your strength, and your spiritual sensitivity. These are not burdens, they are gifts. They are not too much, they are perfectly measured by the standard of heaven. There was a time when you tried to convince yourself that if you were just a little softer, a little less intense, a little less invested in your dreams, then perhaps you would be loved, accepted, or kept. But my child, I never created you to shrink yourself in order to fit into spaces too small for my glory. You are not a disturbance. You are a bearer of truth. You are not difficult. You have simply stopped living in pretense. And if others cannot see that, it does not mean you need to change your essence in order to be acknowledged. I know that walking alone can sometimes feel hollow. I know there are nights when your heart longs for someone who sees you deeply, without requiring every part of you to be explained. But hear me clearly. The solitude I have allowed in this season is not abandonment, it is consecration. It is a time I am using to teach you that even if all you have is me, I am still enough. I am enough to sustain you, to carry you, to restore you, and even to ignite something within you that burns more powerfully than ever before. You are not lost. You are being led to your promised land. Not a place full of shallow applause, but a place where your soul is honored. A place where your words are not merely heard for entertainment, but respected because they carry truth. A place where people don't love you simply because you make them comfortable, but because you remind them that they too can live with honesty and integrity. Because of this, I must take you through a refining process. I must cut away the connections that no longer carry life. I must remove relationships that are built on dependency, those interactions that exist only to serve personal need rather than genuine love. Yes, there were people who once held deep significance, people you once believed would be part of your forever. But a new season demands new people, or, at the very least, a redefinition of the relationships around you. My child, I do not want you to remain trapped in cycles of self-doubt just because someone else lacked the maturity to love you well. I do not want you walking through life with your head lowered, as if your very existence is a burden. I did not create you to be merely accepted under conditions. I created you to know that your presence alone carries weight, purpose, and value. From this day forward, cast off the chains of fearing abandonment. Let go of anything that no longer serves the purpose I've placed within you. Say goodbye to the voices that once dimmed the truth inside you, and prepare your heart, because I am getting ready to lead you into a place where you will no longer be defined by past mistakes, but seen through the new light I am awakening within you. My beloved child, to step into the new season I am unfolding before you, you must be ready to let go not only of relationships that have outlived their purpose, but also of the former version of yourself. Perhaps you've never considered this. You've spent the long journey tending to wounds caused by others, facing abandonment, rejection, and silent goodbyes. But now, I say to you, it is time to also say farewell to who you once were, the version of you that strived to blend in, to please, to exist for the sake of being accepted. I know you have lived in defense mode. You've worn the mask of, "I'm okay," even when a storm was raging inside. You've smiled through celebrations while your soul longed to scream. You've adapted so well to others' expectations that you lost touch with your own essence. But my child, I never meant for you to live like that. Your new season demands a rising, and that rising begins with a choice: to lay down the old self. You must bury the fear of rejection. You must surrender the belief that you are only lovable when you get everything right. You must cast off the notion that you need all the answers before walking through the glorious gate I am opening. No, my child, I do not need your perfection. I desire your surrender. I need your trust that it is in your weakness where my power is made manifest. Where you feel inadequate, I will be your sufficiency. How many times have you looked in the mirror and seen someone weary, discouraged, doubting their own worth? How often have you sighed into the night, not because of a tangible pain, but from a hollow ache, as though your soul were slowly fading? But hear me clearly, you are not broken beyond repair. You are being reshaped. I am peeling away the hardened layers you wore to survive. But now, you are not called merely to survive, you are called to live abundantly, to live in the light, to live as a radiant testimony of me on this earth. So, you must be brave enough to say goodbye to old habits, old thoughts, old ways of being. You must be willing to step into a journey without a clear map, but marked by my presence at every turn. You must accept that you cannot live in control and still expect miracles. You cannot cling to comfort and still walk in the supernatural. And I, your God, I am not calling you to walk by sight, but by faith. Child, faith does not grow in the land of comfort. It grows in the wilderness, where nothing is certain but my faithfulness. And in that place, you will learn that you don't need a full roadmap to begin. You only need one word from me, and I have spoken. Go, not backward, not in circles, but forward to where your calling awaits, to where doors will open not by your strength, but by my grace. I know there are things you grieve, dreams you thought were buried, parts of your life you wish you could rewrite. But I tell you this, nothing is wasted. The cracks do not ruin you. They are the openings through which my light shines. Your mistakes have not destroyed your destiny. They are simply turns along the path to purpose. Those who left you cannot strip away the anointing I have placed upon you, and the dry seasons you've walked through cannot stop the outpouring of blessing I am preparing. I am calling you out of the shadows not because you have failed, but because it is time for you to grow. I do not condemn you for the times you withdrew, for the moments you doubted, or for the fear that once overwhelmed you, but I will not allow you to remain there. You have too much yet to fulfill, too many lives to love, too many dreams still waiting to be born. And because of this, I cannot let you continue carrying only the limited version of who you truly are. From this day on, my child, step forward on your own. Lay down your shame. Strip off the weight of guilt. Say farewell to the version of yourself that lived only to survive. And now, embrace who you truly are, the one I saw before the world began. Not broken, Not fragile, but strong, anointed, set apart, sent for a purpose. As you approach the final threshold of the old season, I want you to look back not with regret, but with gratitude and understanding. Not a single day of your journey was meaningless. Not one tear was wasted. Every sorrow, every misunderstanding, every parting, every moment you thought you wouldn't make it, all of it has become the raw material I used to build something unshakable within you. Like a potter with clay, I have spun you on the wheel of process, molding, pressing, refining, not to break you, but to form a new vessel, ready to carry my glory. And now, that vessel is about to be lifted. You will no longer be a soul merely learning how to survive. You are a mature child of my kingdom, bearing truth, carrying love, and bringing healing to your generation. You will no longer need to prove your worth to anyone. You will no longer need others to confirm your calling. I have confirmed you. I have sealed you. And what I have sealed, no one can undo. You once believed you needed to understand everything before taking a step, but now you know there are doors that open only when you walk toward them. There are miracles that happen only when you raise your sail, even when you feel no wind. There are lands that reveal themselves only when you leave the shore and step into my boat, heading into deeper waters. You are no longer defined by those who failed to see you. You are not a shadow in someone else's life. You are light in dark places, a voice in a generation overwhelmed by confusion. You hold fragments of truth the world is longing for, not because you are perfect, but because you allowed me to shape you. Never forget this. My child, there are seasons in life when letting go becomes the greatest miracle. The miracle is not holding on to people who choose to walk away. The miracle is not making everything return to how it once was. The miracle is having peace when a door closes, yet still believing that I am the one who makes a way. The miracle is when your heart remains soft, even after the bruises. It is when you keep loving, even though you've been hurt. It is when you keep believing in something better, even as you walk through the desert. Now, I call you to move forward and do not look back. Clear the ground of your mind. Allow me to replant hope, to sow trust again, and to water the places you once left, barren out of disappointment. I will make the dry ground bloom. I will cause the desert to sing. You will realize that the places where you thought you had lost yourself were actually the very places where I was hiding you for preparation. And now, the time of hiding has come to an end. A new season is calling your Namanat a season of instability, but one of establishment. Not a season of broken pieces, but one of wholeness and strength. What I have planted in you will now bear fruit. What was once rejected will now be welcomed. What once seemed unclear will now be made plain. Not because you forced it, not because you pleaded for it, but because the time has come. Yes, this is your moment. This is the appointed hour, written in the history of heaven and earth, when destiny and calling meet on the same road. And when you stand at this crossroads, I want you to remember this. You are not alone. Angels have gone before you. The anointing walks beside you. Grace follows behind you. And I, your God, dwell within you. You do not need to be afraid. You do not need anyone's approval. You do not need permission. I have already empowered you. I have already sent you. And I am the one who protects you. So now, walk forward. Walk with your head held high, your heart full of expectation. Do not look back at what has been lost, but look ahead to what I am preparing. For before you lies a journey unlike anything you've ever known, a journey written by my own hand, watered with my tears, and prepared in advance by my everlasting love. This is no longer a season of confusion, but a season of divine positioning, no longer a time of fleeting words, but a time of promises fulfilled. And as you step into it, you will know with all your soul that nothing you've lost can compare to what I am about to give. For I am Jehovah Jireh, your provider, and I am never late. Thank you for listening to today's message. Be sure to click subscribe and turn on the notification bell so we can receive the living word together. Build unshakable faith and walk in the boundless love of God. Amen.